Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin Perek Shnayim Ve'esrim, the 22nd Perek in Hilchos Ishut, the laws of marriage, in the Rambam Sefer Noshim, where the Rambam continues in the theme of the previous Perek, where he began now the rights of the husband in regards to the wife's property, in inheriting her, and regards to her assets. Some ideas the Rambam is going to discuss in this Perek is the halachas of the Yerusha, the inheritance that the husband gets b'nichsi ishtay in the properties of his wife, and regarding a wife that's forbidden to him, the halachas of a katana, a minor, and the chareshes in regards to this, regard to a deaf-mute wife, the halachas as it plays out with nichsi melug and the nichsi tzarm barzel regarding the husband selling his wife's property that she owns, regarding the selling of that of a wife and a shemeris yavam, regarding them selling their properties, the ksuva of a yavama, as it relates to that of a woman that's has yibum with her brother-in-law, regarding if there's a matana, a gift to a woman, al manas, on the condition that her husband should not be able to eat the peiros, regarding if a woman sells her ksuba with what's called teves hana, which is a risk benefit that she could sell to someone else, regarding the halachas of kefil, that a ganav, when he pays back something that he stole, when he's repaying for when he stole the that of a vlad, of the child of a behema of nichsi melug, that if someone damages, someone harms the woman, and he has to pay the nezik tzarim baishas, who does that go to? The husband or to the wife? And regarding receiving deposits from nashim, avodim, and ketanim, where we don't really trust them necessarily, and therefore it's a question regarding what to do with those items. So begin halacha aleph. The Rambam opens up with the husband's inheritance in his wife's properties, in his wife's assets. Says the Rambam, habal koydin chalodam, halacha aleph, the husband is first for any person to be Yerushas Ishtay in inheriting his wife. Now, from when does he merit being an inheritor? Because he wasn't related to her up until now. Is it starts when she leaves her father's domain. And even if he did not yet take her to the chuppah, in other words, which is bringing her to his house and secluding with her, but once she already left her father's domain, she's already in her husband's domain, even though they didn't do chuppah yet, Yerushana, he inherits her. As the Rambam explains, halacha based Ketzad, how so? So Isha Shenisar, so a woman that was engaged, Umisara Vilabala, and her father had gave her over to her husband, or even to the agents of her husband, or let's say it wasn't the father sending his daughter, it was the agents of his father to their husband, or the father had sent with his agents and they encountered the husband's agents and they gave over to them, and then and she dies on the road before she even goes and enters to the chuppah with him. So even if the movable items that her father designated for her dowry, that ksuba, which is her property that she brings into the marriage, it's still in her father's house, the movers didn't even come and bring it yet to his house, still she's already in the husband's domain, and Bala Yarsha, the husband inherits her. So too, if let's say the father was going, the agents of the father were going imabal with the husband. They're going all together from one town to the next town to his house. And on the road, and on the road, the husband goes with his kala into the courtyard. And he secludes himself with her over there. L'shem nisun, for the purposes of being married. Then Umesa, and then she passes away. Harizi Yerushen Bala, so then her husband goes and inherits her, because from the moment that he secludes with her for the purpose of getting married, she's already then in the domain of her husband. Now, but if let's say the father is still with the husband, they're all escorting her to her husband's household. Or at least if the agents of the father are going with the agents of the husband, or with the husband himself. And even if the husband goes with his kala to the courtyard to sleep over the night, like the way people are staying in the motel. They stay in one hotel on their way as they're traveling. So since the father or his agents are still with her, and the husband has not yet secluded himself with his kala for the purposes of marriage, so then it makes at that point, if she dies, Yerushen Aviyah, then her father will inherit her, and even if her stuff already in her husband's household doesn't make a difference, she has not yet left her father's domain, and therefore her father will inherit her. So too, if let's say she's already become a begeris, where then her father has no more rights in her, or she's an orphan, no father, or even if she's a minor, but as long as she was widowed from marriage, her father has no more rights on her, as we said in the third parak. Now she's going on her own from her father's household to her husband's household. Her father has nothing to do with her anymore. Now, but her husband's not with her, nor his agents. She's going on her own. And on her way to go to her new husband's house, she dies on the road. So the husband's not going to inherit her. That although she's engaged, again, we said the husband does not inherit her. Now, but if her husband or his agents were going with her to her husband's household, then she would already be in his domain to inherit her, even if she has not yet had chuppah, and then he would inherit her. But since here she was going on her own, her husband does not inherit her. Halacha dal. Hanoisi isha she'asuraloi. What happens if he marries a woman that's forbidden to him? Not that of the arayos of karis, but that which is Isra Lav or Isra Aseh, or those which are shnias, which are rabbinically forbidden, as we said in the first parak. So kedushin, since these forbidden women, at least, but kedushin is taifis, they are halachically engaged. So mesa tachtab. So if she dies while she's with him, married to him, Yerushana, he's going to inherit her. And so too, if he marries a minor orphan who had, or someone that left already her father's domain. So although it's not a full-fledged biblical marriage, it's only rabbinically, and that's why there's Allah mean that she could refuse it and go without a get. But in Mesa Tachtav, if she dies when she's with him, Yerushana, he will inherit her. Because in contrast, if someone marries a minor that doesn't even need miyun, like let's say she's under 6 years old, then he doesn't inherit her because there's no marriage here at all. But here, since it's at least a rabbinic marriage, so then he does inherit her. Now, let's say it's a mentally sane man who marries a deaf-mute woman. In Mesa, if she dies, lo Yerushana, then he's not going to inherit her, because just like she doesn't get eksuba, as the Rambam said in Perkei Aleph, so too he doesn't inherit her. And she's not a bas das to be able to go ahead and merit him in her properties. So there's no ksuba, which different, that doesn't give him any rights, just like it doesn't give her any rights. And she's not also have the ability to, on her own, be giving her properties to him. Now, but a deaf-mute man that marries a fully sane woman, and she dies, Yerushana, he will inherit her. Why? There's no ksuba if either one of it is a cheresh or chereshes, but sharehi bas das, because she has her intelligence, and with her consent she got married, and therefore she merited to him her monies. And actually there are times that she will get eksuba from him. For example, if let's say the courts are doing him a favor and getting him married off, so because of that, there is some halacha over here that he will go ahead and be able to inherit her if she dies when she's married to him. Now halacha hey, if a minor gets engaged with her father's consent, but she gets married without her father's awareness. So bein b'fanav, whether it's in front of him that he's over here, bein shalei b'fanav, whether he's not here, he's somewhere else, far away, yochalav limchis, the father could protest, like we explained in the third parak. And and even the father is silent. In Mesa, if she dies, einabal yarsha, the husband's not going to inherit her because the father's silence is not proving anything, because it could be just steaming and he's just holding it in. Unless if the father, when he's still alive, explicitly gives his blessings, he gives his consent, then they'll be considered married, and then the husband will inherit her. But if not, she's never considered married, never left the father's domain, and therefore he's not going to inherit her if she dies. Now, the Goinim ruled, if a woman takes ill, so she's requesting from her husband before she passed away that he should divorce her. And she'll even leave without a ksuba. But she's doing this kadesh le'rishen, that he should not inherit her. So we don't listen to her. And even if she comes with a claim, she says, I hate this man. I can't stay with him anymore. We don't listen to her. And moreover, we don't even treat her like a meredis, like a rebellious woman, where the Rambam said in Perkei Daled, okay, then we force him to divorce her right away because we can't force a woman to stay with a man that she doesn't like. It's not true, because V'din Yafa says Rambam, and this is an appropriate ruling, because her whole intention is just to not let her husband inherit her. So that's why she's making up this whole claim. So even though generally we would force him to divorce her, that's not going to be the case in this situation. Now the Ram Halacha Zayin continues regarding the woman's assets in regards to selling those assets. It says Ram, Kol Nechasim Shesh Leisha, all the properties that a woman has, which she brings into the marriage, whether it be what's called the iron sheep properties, which the husband accepts responsibility for. He's ensuring that value when the marriage is over. Or whether the properties which he does not accept responsibility, it's her loss or her gain. Either one of these properties, what she brings into the marriage, he uses the utility, he gets all the profits, all the payers in her lifetime. And if she dies when her husband's still alive, Yerish Bal Hakol, like we started off this parak, he inherits everything from his wife. Now, therefore, in Machar, Isha Nichsim Elog Akshanissis, now we're speaking specifically here regarding Nichsim Elog. If the woman sells, which are really her own properties, but she sells it after she gets married, and even if she inherited these properties before she even got engaged, and therefore it's totally all hers, but the husband could extract the payers from the ones who bought it from her, because, like we said, the payers, the utility, the benefits are all meshubatim. He has a lien on that, and she has no right to sell that. So he, as long as she's alive, he could go ahead and extract the payers from the consumers. Now, but he cannot extract the actual property itself, because he has no rights in the property itself. That's owned by the woman until she dies. But if she dies when he's still alive, then he could actually even extract the properties themselves from the ones who bought it from his wife without paying any money, because the Chachamim made the husband, when he gets married, like a lekeach. He's the first lekeach, and he comes before their lekucha. So he already quote unquote bought it before them, but that only takes effect when she dies. So therefore, when she dies, then he could take it without paying any money. Now, but says the Rambam, but if the monies that she had collected from the ones she sold it to, those monies are still around, then he has to give back those monies to those who had bought the land from his wife. And he can't say, oh, maybe there's not the money, maybe there's money she found, maybe that's what these monies are. It's not really her monies that she had that she sold, which those are her monies, and now we're finding in her drawer over here her own private stash. Maybe it's really Mitzvah money. He can't not say that, and rather we consider that as the monies that she had gotten from selling those fields, and you have to give back those monies to those lukuchas, because again, really it wasn't sold, it was really sold, quote unquote, to the husband originally, and that's why he gets to take it. Now, halacha ches. But when do we say this all? We're talking about properties that were known to the husband, and he knew that his wife had this when he got married, and it was with that intention that he married her, because he was anticipating that when she dies, he's going to inherit all these properties. But let's say she had this properties that she got in some other country. The husband never knew about them. And she sells them, that's going to be a valid sale. So too, if a woman's engaged, that she sells off what she has before she gets married, that's a valid sale. Because the husband has no rights in the properties of his woman that he's engaged to until he gets married to her. And therefore, since she sold it off before, he has no rights to them. So halacha test. So let's say a woman writes all her properties to someone else. Being carved, whether it's a relative, being rachik, someone who's not related to her, and she does this all before she gets married, which again, her whole intention is what's called lahavriach nechasel mebaila, which is just to chase away her husband from her assets that he shouldn't merit and get those rights to them. So it says the Rambam like this: Ava bishim this gosher and this almana. So even though when she's going to get divorced or get widowed, tibotel hamatana, that gift that she gave to this other person, that's going to be null and void. Commissioners bar Hilchos matana, like the Rambam explained Hilchos matana and the laws of gifting in Perek Vav, which he explains over there that she's really only trying to get out of having her husband inherit her. But when she wants it, it's going to go back to, like the Gemara says in Subas, that a person would never leave their own stuff and just keep it to someone else. Her own intention is just that it's not in my bank account that he's going to get it. Even so, in a balechel perisayim, still the husband's not going to eat the pears, although she's really going to get it back at the end. The husband does not eat the produce of this field. And if she dies when he's still alive, in the Yarshim does not inherit them. She already gave it away to someone else before she got married. And it's like this other category of properties which are not known to the husband, because he thought that, it's a bona fide gift to someone else, and therefore when he got married, he did not expect getting those properties. Now, and if she dies in the lifetime of her husband, so then the one that she gifted it to, where although, again, she would have gotten it back had she been removed from this marriage before dying, but here that she died when her husband's still alive, the one that she gifted to gets it as a bona fide gift, because ultimately he has a document of gifting before everyone. Now, if she would have only written partial, then that person would have married it right away, even if she got divorced or widowed, because she left over something for herself. So obviously what she's gifting to the person is a full gift. We're talking about that she's gifting everything. That's the thing, really should get it back, but if she dies, that person will be able to hold on to that gift. Not only that, even if she gives some of her assets or all of them before she gets married, she writes to the one who's receiving it. I want you to acquire what I'm giving you today and when I'm going to want it. So it's not yet fully the person's. So therefore the person has not fully acquired until she wants it. So in a way you could say it's still hers. No. The husband's not going to eat from the produce of those gifts. And if she dies, she's not going to inherit her, because again, it's like properties which are not known to the husband, because he's not relying on them. He thinks it's like gifted to someone else, and therefore he has no rights now. Halacha Yud, the Rambam continues now regarding selling the assets of a Yavama. Halacha Yud, Shemeris Yavam, means literally the woman that's waiting for the Yavam, where her husband died without any children. She's waiting for her brother-in-law to either do Yibum, which is marrying her, or Chalitza, which is this type of divorce for the Yavama. So when she's in this state of where she's the widow and she's waiting for the Yavam to see what he's going to do, Yesh la limka b'lita b'matana, she could sell or give as a gift nachasim shenafla, regarding properties that she acquires kishi shemer's Yavam, when she's in this state as a shemer's Yavam. Because the chiddush in this is, although a regular engaged woman that gets assets, she initially is not supposed to sell it, because generally the engaged woman is going to be married, and therefore it's really going to the husband. But a shemer's Yavam, she could be for chalitza just as much for yibum, which therefore she retains the rights over her properties, and therefore she can do whatever she wants with them. And ve'en lo yavam peiros, and the yavam does not get the produce. Afila b'nichsi tzerm barzel shechnisa la'achiv. Even the nichsi tzerm barzel, which is somewhat of a chiddush, where the husband has some rights in those that she had given to the husband when she got married, because in contrast, let's say peiros nichsi malug, which she brought into the marriage, that's totally hers. And if she dies, her father inherits her. So, but even Nechsitzer and Basil, that she had brought into the marriage to his brother, he has no rights to this Yavam Achiyichnis until he actually gets married, does Yibum, to his sister-in-law. Now, Mesik Shemeres Yavam, let's say she dies when she's still a Shemeres Yavam, and the Yavam didn't do anything, not Yibum and Nachalitz. Now, the Yavam wants to inherit her, because ultimately there's this concept of Zika. There is some type of a pull to this Yavama, because the Torah mandates that, like, almost the halachically engaged, where he has to do either Yibum or Chalitza, so he wants to say like, oh, she's like married to him. Now, however, but her inheritors from her father's household, they come to claim and say, no, that's only a doubtful marriage, because maybe he would do Chalitza and maybe she's not married. So therefore, they want to hold on to their initial rights. So the halach is like this. Her inheritors from her father, which are from her family, Yershim b'nichsi milug shelo. So they inherit her nichsi milug, because that's definitively in her domain, because that, if it goes up in price, it goes down, it's all her loss or gain, and she leaves with it when she leaves her husband, like the Rambam says in Perek Tezayin. So that's in her chazaka, and therefore her family inherits that. And also b'chatzi nichsi tzarm barzel, also half of the nichsi tzarm barzel, that's in doubt, like we said, maybe it is like married, maybe not like. Now, the Yersh Habal, Yershim Ksubasa, now the inheritors of the husband, they inherit har kesuba, which is the primary and the additions, because that's in the chazaka of the husband, where she wants to extract that. Out of doubt, we cannot extract it from the husband, so they inherit the kesuba. And the chatzin nechsitzer barzel, on the other half of the assets of the nechsitzer barzel, they inherit again out of doubt, because maybe she is like married, and therefore it's like in the chazaka of the husband, which is the yavam, where if it goes up or down, they're responsible, but maybe she's not like married, and therefore it's becheskes the yershim of the woman, who she had brought with it from her father's household. So as the Gemara says in Ksubas and Baba says, since they're both coming to inherit, and we don't know, so they split it. And the Yerusha Bal Chayav Mikvarasa, the inheritors of the husband, the Yavam, they're obligated in burying her when she dies, because as we had previously said from the Rambam, that the Kvarasa is Tachas Ksubasa. Whoever gets the Ksuba, that's what the burial is for. And since they're getting the Ksuba, because she's not getting it from them, so they have the obligation to go ahead and bury her when she dies. Halacha Yud Aleph. Shemeres Yavam, again, this woman who's waiting for Yibum, Ksubasa al kol nechsei bala. Her Ksuba, which she's still owed, is on all the assets of her first husband, where, as the Ram had previously defined, that all his properties are responsible for Ksuba, and the Yavam does not write her a new Ksuba, rather it's on the original first husband that the Ksuba is owed from. Therefore, says the Ram, so the Yavam, the new brother that's taking over, cannot sell anything from his brother's estate, whether before he does Yibum or even after he does Yibum, then now this Yavam becomes his wife. Doesn't make a difference. She has a lien on all his properties. Let's say he sells or he gifts or he splits with his brothers and his departed brother's estate. Whether before this Yibum or whether after Yibum, he hasn't done anything. Because these properties are already indebted to the widow. And no matter how much money is there, it's all indebted to her, and if he has no rights to sell from those properties. Halach Yud Beis. Okay, let's say he does Yibum and he marries his Yivam. Now, so he inherits, the Yavam inherits his departed brother's estate. And his brother left over payros, there's fruits that are mechuvam lekarka that are still attached to the ground, which has the same halacha like the ground, and they're also meshubatar ksuba just like ground is. So he has no rights to use it. It's all hard. It's all indebted for ksuba, no matter how much money is in this state. So what you do is, It's payros is not going to last. You sell those payros, karka, and you purchase ground with them, land with them, real estate. So then now it's land which is indebted to her, but the yavam will eat those payros because even her own land, where now that the Yavam becomes her husband, the husband, like we said, is zeicha to the payros. He eats the payros. It's just that, but this is considered indebted to her, so it's hard like her karka, and so she gets to keep that land which is indebted to her, but then he eats the payros. Now, halacha yud gimel, but let's say he nech payros tulushim the karka. Let's say his departed brother left over produce that was already detached from the ground. Or let's say he left over monies and movable items. That's all the Yavam who inherits his brother. And he utilizes it as he pleases. And here she cannot stop him, the Yavam. Because movable items, she cannot collect her ksuba from them, and therefore she has no lien on it. Rather, as the Rambam explained, from a go'enik takana, she's able to collect from a talent. But the but is not the strength and the force of this post rabbinic, that of the go'enik takana, to stop him from his brother's estate, and to make it forbidden on him from her lien that he shouldn't be able to do business dealings with it. No, he is able to, and that's unlike that of real estate. Or like we said, payros that are mechubar in the karka, which is like real estate. Now, halach yadal. So, Yavama shlohis like suba, what's what if Yavama, this woman, her husband died without any children, that she did not have a ksuba because what happened was that her husband died when she was just engaged, which halachically didn't have to write one yet, and he didn't write her one, where she doesn't collect anything. Or no, let's say she just was meichel, she pardoned him, she waived her rights to her ksuba. So zachab nichzi achav. In this case, the yavam merits everything in his brother's estate, and therefore he could sell and give as he pleases, because there's no lien to the woman in her ksuba because she doesn't have a ksuba. Now, however, in this case, when he does do yibum to his yivama, then he does have to write on his own a ksuba of 100 dinarim, because she's a ba'ula already, she was already married, and then all his properties now have a lien to her ksuba, just like all other women that have a ksuba, where usually the yivama is on her first husband, but she didn't have a ksuba from him, so when he's doing yibum, he has to write her ksuba, and then his properties are indebted to her. But again, he can do whatever he wants with his brother's estate, because there's no lien from her on him. Now, the Rambam Mishneh continues with the theme that he mentioned before regarding the selling of the woman's properties. Let's say the woman sells or gifts once she's already married, from the iron sheep properties, which is hers, but just the husband is somewhat his in a way, because he's insuring it, and if it goes up, he gets the gain. If it goes down, he gets the loss. But let's say she sells from her nixitzer basil after she's already married, bein labala ben lachem, whether to her husband she sells it to, or to others. Tzalach is lost a klum. She hasn't done anything. Why? When she gives it to her husband, she could claim, "I only did it because I wanted my husband to be happy with me," but she didn't do it wholeheartedly. When she sells it or gives it to other people, for sure there's no validity because it's in the husband's domain, because he is insuring it. So therefore she has no rights to go ahead and sell it. And so too, if the husband sells from his wife's property, and here it's either one of them, he hasn't done anything because it's totally void right away, because although she doesn't have any claim to the Nichtzitzer Barzel until she's leaving the union, in contrast to the Ravid, actually, he disagrees with the Rambam at this point. But since it's not normative for the woman to go after the courts, after he dies or when she's getting divorced, to have to go ahead and collect from Lekuchas, so therefore we say that right away it's going to be void, and Nichtzim Maluk are hers, and he has no rights to sell it. And so even either one of them, we say that, according to the Rambam at least, that it's right away, he hasn't done anything. Contrast by the woman, where we were speaking about that she hasn't done anything when she's self nixed term basil. Now, continues the Rambam halacha design. Let's say he sells the movable items of his wife's nixed term basil. Now, says Rambam, although he's not really allowed to, because if he divorces her, she's going to take it with her. It's owned by her. But if he sells it, mimkar, it's a valid sale, because here it's unlike that of real estate, which that never gets used up, and she's dependent, she's relying on that when she's going to leave the union, she's going to have that. So therefore then his sale is void, as we said in the previous halacha. But movable items, where he gets to use it, the nichtzitzarim basil, and if it would get totally ruined, she wouldn't be taking anything back with her, so she's not so dependent on it. Therefore, even if he sells it, it's going to be a valid sale. Now let's say let's say the two of them, they sell her nichsim aloig. So whether they first buy from the husband and then buy from the co-owner, so to speak, the wife, or whether they first buy from the woman and then they subsequently buy from the man, here michar kayim. Here the sale is going to be valid. And here it's unlike we had said in the previous parak. Here she can't claim and say, I only did it because I wanted my husband to be pleased with me and he wanted to make a sale and so on. As the Rambam is going to explain, here that doesn't apply, and therefore it's going to be a valid sale if they are selling it together. So if the woman sells labala. Previously we had spoken about the woman selling nixim term basil, which to her husband, of this she hasn't done anything. Here the Rambam talks about what's if she sells her nixim aloig, which are very much hers. And that's the point of this halacha and from the previous halacha. If she gifts it or sells it to her husband, her sale and her gift is valid. And she cannot say by the nixim I just wanted to do something pleasing to my husband, because since it's totally hers, so there's not going to be any hatred from the husband if she doesn't sell it to him or to others. She's not afraid of her husband protesting, because it's totally hers. He has no rights in it whatsoever. And therefore, if she was silent, she didn't protest. So then, if she's going along with it, then it's going to be a valid sale. Now, regarding all other properties, then she could make such a claim and say, I was just doing it for my husband. In contrast, she cannot have such a claim. Therefore, if they both sell it to someone else, it's going to be valid. Or even if she sells it to her husband or gifts him, it's going to be valid. Now, how so? So it says the Isha here we're going back to explain, like we said in Lachad Ezva. If the woman sells or gifts her husband from the Nichtzit term Barzel, whether it's real estate, whether it's movable items, or it's one of the fields that he designated for her in her ksuba, meaning after they got married, he designated, says, look, don't worry, if anything happens, this land is poitiki, it's going to be designated, you could collect your ksuba from here. Or a field that he wrote to her in the ksuba, when he got married to her, so he put in a field and he designated, okay, this is going to be for your ksuba. Or just a field that, in correlating to her dowry, which she brought in a field that he brought in a field from his own to write in the ksuba to say that that's going to be in correlation to the dowry, as the Rambam explained later on Perek Chav Gimel in the next parak. Either one of these, if she's selling any one of these, again, because we said Nichsim Malug is the one exception in the previous halach. As Rambam explained, but Olad Nechasim, he says that she could make such a claim, which are all these other cases, all the other types of properties that the woman has rights to. Here, if she sells it or gifts it to him, like her husband has not acquired anything. Because as Rambam explains, this is even if they acquired from the woman with her consent, she could back at any point that she wants to, because most definitely she did not wholeheartedly acquire to her husband these fields that are somewhat indebted to her for a ksuba, and this that she went along with it was only because she was afraid he's going to say, what? You're afraid I'm going to die, or there's going to be divorce, and that's why you don't want to go along with this? Like the Rambam says, because she only gifted or sold it because she wanted peace and harmony in her home. The fikr, therefore, says the Rambam, the husband has no proof in any of his wife's properties at all, except for Nixim, like we explained in Halacha Yedzayin, in the previous Halacha, where then we said, okay, then she could gift it or sell it to him, and then he'll have rights to it, but all other ones, even if she went along with it, it's not valid. She was only doing it because she was afraid, and therefore he cannot hold on to it at all. Halacha Yotes. Nichtzit term Basel. The Nichtzit term Basel, if they were lost or they're stolen, and the wife waived her rights that she has on the husband, where he insured. Anything happens, he's responsible. if she pardoned him, and he acquires from her with witnesses that she's pardoning him, says the Rambam, it seems to me that she cannot say, oh, really, I really wanted him because we said only Nixi Meloig is the one that he could acquire from her. But everything else, she could always come with this claim and say, oh, I really just want my husband to be okay with me. Here she cannot make such a claim. Why? As Rambam explains, what could this be compared to? If a husband acquires from his wife's hand, that she's not going to have any lien that he's responsible for insuring. Meaning, that she went and she turned the Nixi Tzarm into Nixi Melug where he does not have responsibility to insure. Oh, like in such a situation, which is essentially the same thing, where she's pardoning him, or she switches the Nixi Tzarm to Nixi Melug, Shahari in about maybe Royally till Klum, the husband not bringing proof that he should be taking anything from her, or to take possession of her properties, and all he's trying to do is to be exempt from her claim from paying, so there's no gifting, it's just forgiving of a lien. Oh, that says the Rambam, well, that could work, that the husband could be exempted. Because, that what we said before is, let's say, if she's giving him a gift, mitatli tzarm barzel akayaman from the existing tzarm barzel, that's what that's what he does not acquire. This you could say, I was just doing a favor for my husband. But regarding exempting him, that we wouldn't say such a thing, and therefore, if he does acquire from her, that he's not responsible, that then actually he's going to be exempt. Halacha Chav, the Rambam continues with regarding how to deal with the properties of the wife. Says the Rambam, Baal Shemacha Karkala Paris, if the husband sells this land that's for Paris, meaning, essentially, if he sells the Nixi Meloik, which is that the Lekeach is going to eat the Paris, but the actual property is going to remain with the wife, which is that really, Nixi Meloik, although it's all hers, but he does have the rights to the Paris, and the husband sells the land for its utility for someone else, Lo Yasukum, he hasn't done anything. Why? Although he has the rights to the Paris, why can't he sell to someone else? Says the Rambam, because Memneshla, he's skin the Paris leish. Although we instituted that the husband gets the Paris, we didn't institute it only that there should be a surplus in the expenses of the house, which is that there should be a lot of food in the house, that he'll be good to the wife because what she has, she bring into the marriage. Oh, they'll have a lot, they'll be able to enjoy life, but just to go ahead and sell it to someone else, that he has no rights. Now, think about the difference. Says the Rambam, if he sells the land for the produce to someone else, and he's using those monies for business to be able to have more money to be able to use for the house, then we listen to him, because again, it's all coming back to the home, which is for the purpose of having a better marriage with this wife. Now, let's say the woman had monies. So, if they're Nixit Tzarm Barzel, mean to say that the husband accepted that he's insuring these monies, and the gain or loss is going to be his, so he could use it for business dealings to make a profit margin on it, because he's taking responsibility. But the Nixim Aleigim, let's say Nixim Aleig, which is all hers, she's gaining or losing, he just gets to use the Paris. Then Bein Shech Nisa Oisam Loi. Now, so whether if, let's say, she brought these properties into the marriage when she got married, or Bein Shenafali Virusha, or whether she had it as a inheritance, or whether it was gifted to her, or let's say she inherited, she got this windfall of movable items, or Nasla was given to her. In these situations, what you do with these monies, since it's really all hers, he has no rights in it like the Nixit Tzarm Barzel. So what you do with the monies is you sell them, and then you purchase real estate with them, and then he uses those produce, the benefits of that karka, because although Nixit Tzarm Barzel, he gets to use the payers, the Nixim Eloig, if he would use it as it is, as monies or movable items, he would deplete the principal, and she would be left with nothing. So rather what you do is, you use those monies of the Nixim Eloig to buy land, and then it remains for the woman, and then he used the payers of those Nixim Eloig. Halacha base. And that's because that's why different Nixim Tzarm Barzel, he's insuring her, so she doesn't get what happens. Nixim Eloig, she doesn't get insured, but he gets to use the payers, therefore rather you first turn it into land, and then he gets to use it. Halacha beis. So to a woman that if others injure her, she gets injured in an accident, something happens, she gets hurt. So kala ma'aser lost his law. All the monies that are fit to go to her, which for compensation. So what you do is, since the husband gets to use whatever she gets, and again we don't want to leave it as monies because then he's depleted. You look at ben karka, so you buy real estate with it. So that she retains the principal. The husband could use the benefits of it, like the Rambam explains in the laws of injuries. Halacha of Gimel. Let's say she inherits slaves. Now, although they're already elderly, and anyways, the principle is going to be plated very soon. These slaves are passing away. Still, lo yamachu. The husband cannot sell them because of the praise of her father's household. Meaning, as long as they're alive, it's a beauty, it's a nobility that so therefore she could stop the sale because it's something that's praiseworthy of her father's household. So to nafal, let's say she inherited olive tree or a grapevine. And but she doesn't even have in the land itself any rights that the trees are in there, klum at all, where let's say her father had bought just the tree, not the land, where that he'll just use the trees until it dries up. So it depends. If the grapevine or the olive tree produces enough that it'll cover its expenses, then you don't sell it. Again, because it's praise of her father's household. But if not, it doesn't even cover its expenses. What you do then is you sell them for firewood. But you look at karka, then the money that you're getting, you purchase land with it. Again, and then the husband uses the pairs, and again, the land, which is the principal, will remain by the woman. Let's say she inherits produce that's attached to the ground. So this goes to the husband, because even though it did not grow in his property, but it's still going to have the halacha status as pairs, and he could eat it because the principle, which is the land, is still here. Let's say Telushim Nakarka. Let's say she inherited produce detached from the ground. So that's shalah, that's not pairs, that's the principle itself. So that's hers. And they sell it, and then you purchase land with that. And then he eats the pairs of that. Let's say someone divorces his wife, there was produce attached to the ground at the time of the divorce. So although we say when he marries her, he gets those pairs because that's the peri of the karka, but at the time of the divorce, she actually gets to take it with her, because since he did not detach it when they were still married, so he didn't merit it. But the Moed Telushim, if it was already detached, it was already his, and therefore she doesn't take it when they get divorced. The slaves that are nixim eloig, which again are properties that she's bringing to the marriage that's totally hers, and he could just, however, get the payers. So to behemoths nixim eloig, the animals of nixim eloig, habal chayv b'mizayin shalem. Here the husband has an obligation to feed these slaves and these animals. And regarding all their needs, and it was with that intention that she put into the marriage, because if he's not going to feed them, they're going to die or run away, and he's going to do that because he's not responsible for their insurance. So therefore, he's obligated to feed them. And and they work for him, and he gets to use the payers of these slaves and of these animals. Now the fikr therefore says the Rambam, Vlad Shefkas Maloi, the child of such a maidservant that's a Nixim Maloi, is Labal, goes to the husband. And Vlad Bemis Maloi, the child of this animal Maloi, is Labal, goes to the husband, because it's the payri which he has the rights in these Nixim Maloi. Now, if he divorces her, the woman wants to pay. She wants to take the child of that slave, because these slaves have been in the family for years and she's leaving the marriage. So though the husband got it because of payers, we listen to her again because Shevach Beisavia gives her certain rights. Let's say she brought into the marriage two vessels, or two maidservants, in the category of Nichsitzar Barzel, which is, again, if there's increase or decrease, it's the husband's. He just gives back as the value was when they got married. Now, when they got married, these kalim or the shvachas were worth 1,000 zuz. But then Behuka, they went up in price. Now each one is worth 2,000. The Gershon, he divorces her, so they tell us so the woman only takes one of the two, which is the 1,000 that both were worth, because they doubled in price, but she only gets that value, so she only takes one. This second one, Imrotza Shatit and Damav. If she wants to go and pay the monies, and again, to take it because of these are from the grandparents that they inherited these China or these slaves, then Shemel again, then we listen there again for the same halacha of Shevach Beisavia. Halacha of Zayin. If someone gives a gift to his wife, whether he gives her land, whether he gives her money, and she buys real estate with that money, there's an exception. Here the husband does not get the payers of this gift. And let's say someone gifts to the wife, specifically, this is for you, this is not for your husband to eat the payers, rather it should be the payers for the wife, whatever she wants to. Here also, in the husband does not eat the payers of this gift. And in another case is also if the woman sells her ksuba with what's called teves anah, which is the benefit that she gets in this sale, which is not a real sale because it's dependent. If the husband dies when she's still alive, then that purchaser will get, but if she dies, he's not going to get anything because he's going to inherit it first. So Eis Madam Leisha, those monies that she gets from selling Kesuba goes to the woman. Here also the husband does not eat the pairs. And these are exceptions to the rules of the husband getting the pairs. Another halacha similar to this says Ram halacha chavches, and that explains the previous halacha that we just said. Vlad behemes maloik shenignav. If the child of an animal of maloik shenignav that got stolen. Now, they find the thief. The halacha is b'shil mishnayim, and he pays double, which is the halacha of kefil. Ha-kefil isha, that double, the penalty, goes to the woman. Why? There's the pre, there's the actual pre which goes to the vlad. We said goes to the husband because he gets the payers of the nichs maloik. Here the kefil is going to go to the woman. Why? She'ain't a quote unquote pre. This is not the pre that the sages instituted because it's like payers. It's a derivative of the derivative, which is coming from somewhere else. And since it's a pay coming from somewhere else, because the derivative is the child of the nichs maloik, and here it's the kefil that's coming because of the theft of that one, and it's coming from somewhere else because of the laws of kefil. That's the symbol of the halacha of the previous halacha regarding selling her ksuba, which is also pre of the pre, coming from somewhere else. That the Chacham did not institute for him in the laws of pre. Now, another exception to the rule is if someone harms his wife. So kol nezek, all the damages, which is when someone gets compensated for injury, vatsar, vabisha, and the pain and the embarrassment, which someone gets compensated by nezek, shalah is all hard. Vena balach bez, the husband is not going to eat the produce. Like the Rambam explained the halachas of damages, the reason for that is because based on the primary halacha, really, it should all go to the woman. Even if someone else harms her. It's just only because the husband also gets somewhat embarrassed and also in pain when she gets injured, so therefore he gets those rights of the payers. But here where he himself harmed his wife, and he hurt her and he embarrassed her, why would he take payers? Now according to the Ravid, the reason why the husband does not eat from the payers that's coming to her is because there's a penalty. Because he did shalai kagan, he did something wrong, a sinner, where he made the injury, he definitely cannot get the payers in this situation. Halacha Chavtes Rambam continues regarding what if you find monies by the woman, how do we ascribe, what type of status do we give to it? As Rambam says, if someone sells the land for his wife, so meaning he's selling land to his wife. He has land and he's selling to his wife. So if let's say these monies that she's using, the husband and wife, they have their own bank accounts and they have their own properties, and the monies that she's using to buy the land from the husband, where he's selling it to her, are gluim v'dum labal. He knows about those monies. Then comes she acquires that field, and then it's like anything that she owns, which it's hers, but it's nichs maloik, and so the husband, it's hers, but then the husband eats the payers from the karka. But, and this is the main point, but if let's say the monies were hidden, he never knew about this. He's like, I don't know, she doesn't have money. No, let me try to see, I'll sell her land. And she comes up with this huge amount of cash, like she has not acquired the field. Because the husband's going to say, no, there was no sale over here. I just wanted to find the money that she was hiding, which is really, I have rights to, which she was making like she didn't have money in some secret bank account. But it's not Moshe. So they're rather the money that now they discovered, you look at Karka, what you do is you purchase other lands. So he gets to hold on to his land. You purchase real estate with a babalach pairs, and the husband eats pairs from those lands. Halacha lamet. Harisha nimtzu mois. Let's say they discover money or movable items by the wife. He never knew this, some secret drawer, some storage that she had. He says, it was given to me as a gift. The Oimer says, not true. This is the wages. I was always wondering you always came home with half the salary that I thought you were supposed to get. Sheim Shali, which actually the whole Ma'asidam all goes to the husband because he feeds her, he gets all her wages. So Hariza in the menace. She's trusted, she's believed with her claim that it was really gifted to her and he doesn't own it. But he can make a chayrim, which we've mentioned many times. The Rambam says to excommunicate whoever is making a claim which is not true, which if it's really is his because it's her wages. But she's believed. But you look at Karkas, or rather what you do is, like all her properties that she, let's say, was gifted, you buy real estate with it, boichel Paris, and it's her like nixim look, but he gets to eat the Paris. Now, V'mamu, let's say she says, not only that was it gifted to me, amanos kainetnuli, it was given to me on the stipulation, amanos li leval rishus bem, which there are those types which we said, that the one who gifted to me said, no, it's only for you, and your husband should have any rights with them, that I should be able to do with it whatever I want to do. So that would mean that he wouldn't even get Paris. For this, she has to bring proof. The onus of proof is on her. Because any money that we find by the woman, it's the assumption that the husband gets to eat the peiros until Shibing's proved that it's not like that. Let's say she says to him, what do you mean? This money that I have, you're making this big expose? You gave it to me as a gift. Which we mentioned that as those things that he does not eat peiros either. So Nishbash was Hasish Nasla Balsa here, unlike the other halacha, here she has to take a rabbinic oath that her husband had actually given it to her, because the husband is making a definite claim that he didn't give her any of these monies. And we believe her, and he does not eat any of the peiros, because a woman would not have the audacity in front of her husband to say something that he knows what the truth is or what's not, and therefore we believe her, just like we believe her to say that she was divorced, and therefore he does not get the peiros, like we said in halacha Chav Zayin. Halacha Lamed Beis. We did not accept deposits. Not from women, not from slaves, and not from minors. We have to be concerned that maybe they stole it, and that's why they're depositing it by someone else, from their husband or from their master, and you're not allowed to support and assist sinners. And when you don't accept from them, they have no choice but to give it back where they took it from. Now, let's say this person violated this and received the deposit from the woman. So when the time comes, he gives it back to the woman. We don't have to presume that she's a thief. Mesa, if she dies, you'll give it back to her husband, because even if it was hers, the husband inherits her. Let's say he did take it from the slave. So you give it back to the slave. But if he dies, you give it back to his master, because anyways, whatever was his, was anyways his master's. Let's say he received the deposit from a minor. So then you can know by Sefer Torah, then you don't even return it to the minor. Here you go and you purchase a Sefer Torah for him, and you don't give it back to him because he doesn't have a safeguard. It's like just throwing it out to the garbage. Rather, you purchase a Sefer Torah that he can learn from, and then he has the peiros, the utility, and then the principle is maintained. Or anything else that he could utilize the peiros, and the principle is maintained. Now, all these that we spoke about, the woman and the slave and the minor, that they said when they were dying, this deposit that I gave to that person to watch really is that person's things. If they were presumed to be trustworthy, it's like the one who was deposited by goes and really knows this woman and this slave and this minor, and they were presumed to be trustworthy. So then they should do like that dying person was commanding. But if we don't know to be what that this one who was depositing, even that they were trustworthy, then then we give it to those who generally would inherit them, this minor, the slave, or this woman, and we don't give it to whoever they were claiming it was when they passed away. Halach Lamed Gimel. If a woman had monies that were fit for the husband to eat the peiros, which is generally almost anything that the woman has, he says, okay, let's buy this and this type of thing. She says, no. It's my monies, you get to use it, the peiros, but we're going to buy these types of assets with it. So what's the halacha? Says the Rambam, has nothing to do with either one of them. Like in Dava, we purchase something which has a lot of utility, which is the gain of the husband, and it has a little expense. So, for example, let's say he wanted to purchase land to plant, and she wanted to buy houses. We're going to buy land where there's a lot of gain, and it is maintained. Whether it was something he wanted, or whether what she wanted, it doesn't make a difference. It has to have those qualities. And also, we only purchase something that the trunk that will regenerate, which you could utilize the peiros, but you won't lose the trunk, and rather it will regenerate like a forest. Because maybe the husband's going to consume it all, but inside it's going to come out the principle, it's going to be lost, and she's going to lose everything. So rather it has to be something that regenerates. Now the Rambam concludes in Halacha Lamed Dal Lamed Hey regarding the utility of the woman's properties. Says the Rambam, if a woman brought into the marriage to her husband, a goat for milking, meaning it wasn't even her own goat. She had the rights, however, regarding the milking of the goat, and she brings in those rights to the marriage. Or the sheep only for the shearing of the wool. Or the palm tree for its produce. Although she doesn't even have the principle, she only has the utility of these items. The husband could go ahead and utilize these things up until the principle is depleted. And let's say she brought in certain utensils in the halachic status in the category of nichsim malaig, which again is hers, but he gets to use the peiros. So these utensils, he could use them. He could clothe and spread out and cover and use these things until the principle is depleted. When he divorces her, he doesn't have to pay her regarding these items having been worn out of the nichsim malug, because that's the peiros, and if it gets depleted, it gets depleted. Halakha Lamed Hey. Now, the Goinim ruled Shenichsi tzarm barzel, that the properties of tzarm barzel, although regarding the primary halacha, the deficiency, the diminishment is the husband's responsibility. But if the worn out items were still around, and also it would still be able to function in its primary function, although it is a little bit worn out. And it tells when she leaves the marriage, she takes it as is. And that is, he doesn't have to compensate, although when she got married it was worth 1,000, now it's only worth 750. She just takes it as is, and he doesn't have to compensate her. Now, but let's say it didn't function in the original function, then then it's like as if it was still no lost. Then he has to compensate her for the value that was evaluated at the time when they got married. And says the Rambam, minig pasher is there, and this ruling of the Gainim is a widespread custom. And whoever gets married, it's with this custom that he's accepting the responsibility of the dowry, which is that he's not going to have to compensate her again if it has the original function and it's still extant in its original state. It's just worn out. Now, but says the Rambam, it goes two ways. Just like he doesn't have to pay for its deficiency, so he doesn't gain the profit. If, let's say, devaluate the value, according to this custom, if it's still in its original function, and even though it went up because it's not antique or whatever it is, then he doesn't either get the gain. Now, the Ram concludes, he says, the husband could force some of the wife's maidservants and slaves, which are hers, but that that they could have to serve him in the house of his other wife that he married. And the reason for this is because when they're serving him in some other house, there's still gain in this house, because then she doesn't have to serve him. And what's the difference if the slave is serving in her house or in some other house? Meaning, if they weren't serving the husband in some other house, rather that other wife, most definitely, then she could stop that. But when it's helping the husband, which is helping her, although it's in a different house, he could still have them, force them to serve him there. And this is Ben Shoy Avdi Meloig, whether it's Avdi Meloig, Ben Shoy Avdi Tzembrad, whether Avdi Tzembrasel. But he cannot make them go with him to another city without his wife's consent, because if he's in another city, then there's no gain for the wife over here, because then she has no responsibility for him in some other city, and because she wouldn't have on the obligation, not really helping her. And again, like we said, this utility that the husband has is only for the gain of the wife, and then he wouldn't be able to force the slaves to go with him if it's in another city.